people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, we'll start with this. The latest as it pertains to the newly vacated WBA minimum weight title that was left vacant as a result of Senicia Estrada's impromptu retirement. As a result of that, Japan's own Yuko Kuroki will be taking on Yi King Xiao of South Korea later on this month on the 21st for the newly vacated title. Whoever wins that fight and goes on to become WBA champion will likely become a person of interest, a prime target for the two-time minimum weight champion Yo Valle, who is backed by Golden Boy Promotions and has enough money behind her that they could bring the winner to America.
She's got the WBC title.
Germany's own Sarah Borman has the WBO. Via the WBO, looks like there could be a rematch brewing between Sarah Borman, the newly crowned WBO champion, and her old buddy from the United States, Yadira Bustillos, who is ranked at number 1. We'll recall that in May of 2023, an unbeaten Yadira Bustillos traveled to Germany for that fight and lost the decision, though not before giving a great account of herself, and she has since rebounded off that decision loss. She's had 3 fights, she's won 3 fights, and she's currently number 1 by way of the WBO, so she is at least in position to fight Sarah for a second time.
We'll see if she does.
Via the IBF, Argentina's own Sol Kudos and Australia's own Louisa Houghton make up the number 1 and number 2 fighters in their ranked standings, so it's conceivable that a fight between them could decide who the next IBF champion is going to be. Thus, there is a lot of movement in the women's minimum weight division as the landscape changes and the division restructures itself, a different pecking order. It's not that long ago, before she retired, Senicia Estrada was at the top of the food chain. Now it would seem that her old buddy Yo Valle is the best in show. She's the best.
Apex predator.
And I would give her decent odds against any of these girls, whether it's Sol Kudos or Louisa Houghton, Yuko Kuroki,
Yadira Bustillos, Sarah Borman, and any other champions that might pop up, any other champions that might sprout in the aftermath of Senicia Estrada's retirement.
I think it's conceivable that within the next
few months,
Yokastia could wrangle a situation where she faces another champion at the weight, unifies a title. I don't know if she becomes undisputed before the year is out, but I do think she will cap off this year as a unified champion.
En route to becoming undisputed, and I think she can. It's just a matter of how long is it going to take her?
Over to the men's super lightweight division, where Devin Haney stated via his own social media that he will be returning to action in March, to which Teofimo Lopez responded with, "Teofimo, you punk bitch."
Yeah, we talked about that.
More developments in that conversation. Devin responded to Teofimo by saying, "You talk about black people, but need a black person for a payday, bitch-ass boy. Stay off those pills you love so much, and you know exactly what I'm talking about, too."
What's he talking about?
So you will recall that a couple of months ago, Teofimo Lopez made some inflammatory comments that a lot of people didn't like, in so many words saying that Top Rank can keep their black fighters.
What?
He felt that he wasn't being pushed and promoted, and so he lashed out, though what black fighters have to do with anything, your guess is as good as mine.
Teofimo is a bigot.
And that's becoming more and more evident over time. The recent comments he made about monkeys and bananas and just all of that.
Teofimo is a bigot.
And what Devin is trying to communicate is that for all of Teofimo's negative sentiments towards black people, he needs them to make money, because without a black fighter, he ain't gonna make nothing.
He's not wrong.
Teofimo responded by saying, "Real Devin Haney, you're not even black. you are light-skinned. Shut this shit up.
What?
And shout out to all my 4s and 5s, to my Bs and to my Cs. Got nothing but major love and respect.
What?
Addressing Devin Haney's accusation that he's abusing pills of some kind, Lopez continued, pills? I've learnt something about this life. When people express false narratives, it is a projection of self. It is why I am focused on bringing either WADA or USADA into the professional sport of boxing. Not a plug that I know I can manipulate like VADA and Victor Conti.
Why don't WADA and USADA oversee anti-doping testing in the sport the same way that VADA do?
Well, WADA's banned list and their definitions trickle down into all of the other anti-doping organizations. And if what Teofimo wants to do is use USADA, you can use USADA. You can hire them.
Floyd did.
The thing is that USADA is more expensive than VADA, so perhaps that's the reason that you don't see USADA used more often. Devin Haney stated, Teo's got the nerve to try to offer somebody something, but he's out here begging. I told him, he's gonna fight for peanuts as long as he's with Bob. I'm making real money. To which Teofimo responded, tag my name next time, you mama guebo.
And Devin must have hit a nerve. When you read Teofimo's next tweet, Teofimo asked, hey, Top Rank Boxing, what's my buyout? Just a question. Also, I'd respect if you replied here and not around the corner. Thank you and have a blessed Sunday.
Devin must have hit a nerve. If that's what Teofimo followed up with, he must have hit a nerve if he's now talking about free agency.
There were two stories here. Let's talk about the first.
When 2 weeks ago news broke that Teofimo and Top Rank made a play to do a Devin Haney fight, and Devin rejected the offer. That's the story that's out there. Devin has seemingly confirmed that they reached out to him because he's saying that Teofimo is begging. He's begging for a fight with the same black fighters that he likes to criticize.
Devin is right. Without a black fighter, Teofimo ain't gonna make no money. And it's as simple as that. But that doesn't take away from the fact that he tried to fight you and you went the other way. Now you're fighting God knows who on Black Prime when you could have been fighting him.
And that's the first story. For as big a douchebag as Teofimo Lopez is, don't let it go over your head that we should have been getting a Lopez versus Haney fight, but Devin Haney chose to go the other way. Why? Why not humiliate this guy? Why not embarrass him for all the stuff he says? You should have fought him.
Devin should have fought him.
For all this talk about big money, flexing, big money moves, you should have fought him.
That's one.
2. Teofimo continues to be his own worst enemy, with the things that he says and the things that he does, his erratic behavior. For all his talk about monkeys and bananas, he's actually the monkey see, monkey do guy.
Unoriginal.
Think about it. Ryan Garcia goes on a racist rant, a racist tirade, then Teofimo tries to do the same thing.
Monkey see, monkey do.
Think about it. Shakur Stevenson and Devin Haney enter into free agency and try their luck in the open market. Now, Teofimo wants to do the same thing.
Monkey see, monkey do.
He is unoriginal and greatly lacking situational awareness and tact.
These are learned behaviors from Teofimo. What you're seeing is a reflection of the household he comes from.
Why exactly does he seem to harbor all of this resentment towards black fighters? And maybe it's because so many of them make more money than he does, whether you're talking about Shakur or Devin or Terrence.
They all make more money than he does, so maybe that's why, in tandem with his upbringing and whatever bigoted sentiments he's been raised with in his household,
that rounds out the resentment, because there is a resentment there. You can see it. Doesn't make him any less an idiot because he is an idiot. Black fighters are not the nature of your problem, Teofimo. Losing to George Kambosos, that was the nature of your problem. That's what got the ball rolling, and that's how you got here. You don't lose that fight.
No, go back even further. If you wouldn't have been looking for big money for what was not a big fight, you would have fought George in a timely fashion, kept the momentum going, and you probably would have never lost. But you wanted to drive a hard bargain and drove right into a wall.
I've been over that story so many times over the years, but the moral of it is Teofimo, like a lot of these young fighters, don't want to be just fighters. They keep trying to be other things and making fools of themselves in the process, not trusting the process.
Huh?
It's simple. It took Floyd Mayweather a long time and a lot of fights, before he graduated to his Money May persona and started making all of that cash. It took a long time and a lot of fights, whereas a fighter like Teofimo thought that he got there already just by beating Loma. It actually took Canelo Alvarez a long time before he graduated to become the face of boxing. I remember when he fought Miguel Cotto and when he fought Gennady Golovkin the first time, he wasn't regaled as the face of boxing. Not yet. It's not until after the second fight, over 40 fights into his pro career, that he becomes who he became.
Wasn't really until after the second Gennady Golovkin fight that he becomes the face of boxing, and that is well over 40 fights into his pro career, so that a fighter like Teofimo,
This moron.
could think that he's arrived already just because he beat Vasyl Lomachenko.
It's after the Lomachenko fight that things start to spiral out of control, based on Teofimo's ego and what his demands were, and given what was going on at the time, that you want big money for what is not a big fight. The entire world is coming out of the shutdown, out of the pandemic, the live gates ain't all the way back yet, and the kind of money you're looking for...
Been through it a million times. He did it to himself. You should have just did that fight at Top Rank's price, get it out the way, and move on to something bigger. You spent over a year on that thing so that when you finally have it, you lose.
That's your own fault. You're not supposed to spend that amount of time on a run-of-the-mill mandatory on what was a George Kambosos fight. Whatever happened after that is your fault.
Things only started to spiral out of control because of you.
And I don't think that after that, he ever really regained his footing or went back to being who he was before he lost to George. Signature win over Josh Taylor at 140 pounds.
After that,
One of 5 performances as a 140-pound fighter, the only one where he looked all right. The rest of the time, he's looked bang average. And saying the kind of things that he is saying, he's not doing himself any favors.
appearing to be a bigot, appearing to be a racist, you are isolating yourself from all those potential customers, all those people that could be rooting for you.
They're not, because you sound like a bigot, and that directly affects your marquee value. You need as much support as you can get. As an enduring fighter, it's not like you got a built-in fan base like the Puerto Ricans do, or the Mexicans do. You don't.
Like some of the Brits do.
You don't have that. So when you get out there and you make public statements, you better measure your words, because you need as many people in your corner as you can get. That's why out of all the young guys, you're making the least money.
Less than Devin, less than Shakur, less than Javante.
Less than Ryan. And I understand that Ryan's a bit of a bigot too. He's a racist too. Though for whatever reason, he's got more charisma than you do. More natural
Swagger.
He does. And I can't stand the kid, but I have to admit, he's got more to him than Teofimo. Teofimo just strikes me as a wannabe. Unoriginal.
He's not funny, he's not charming.
So every so often, he puts up a halfway decent fight, but he's just not consistent enough.
He's not.
You get mad at me for saying it, but he really does make less money than everybody else, and there is a reason for that.
Because he's a jerk-off.
People don't like you. Stuff like this is why you need as many people from as many backgrounds as possible in your corner to raise your marquee value. Doing what you're doing, well, that's not gonna happen.
Because you're a jerk-off.
You want to achieve free agency for what?
You don't even sell like that. You never graduated from the Hulu Theater.
Somebody needs to take his phone. Men's light heavyweight news ahead of his upcoming fight with David Benavidez. David Morrell says Benavidez's only move is to attack. And he's not wrong. David Benavidez is a pressure fighter, and that's what pressure fighters do. That's what they're good at. It's what their limitations are.
David Morrell hopes to exploit that.
To David Morrell, a fight with David Benavidez is a challenge many boxers would run away from, but Morrell says he's determined to make his mark by embracing what seems to be the biggest fight of his pro career. On February 1st, Cuba's Morell, 26, will come up against 28-year-old former WBC champion David Benavidez of Phoenix, Arizona at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. Morrell says he's ready for the challenge. I see this opportunity as a way for me to shut some people up, said Morrell in an interview with Boxing Scene. I want to be able to show the people that say that I'm not ready to be at this level that I can do it. I want to just prove them all wrong, and then also, at the same time, I want to make my family proud. I want to make my country proud, and be able to go out there and represent the way I know I can. Morrell, 11-0 with 9 KOs, made an instant impact at light heavyweight last August when he recorded a 12-round unanimous decision win over Serbian Radovanje Kalajic. Meanwhile, Benavidez, 29-0 with 24 KOs, was one of the fighters to beat at 168 before moving up to campaign at 175 after failing to land a fight with superstar Canelo Alvarez. The Arizona native made his light heavyweight debut against Alexander Vajdik last June, decisioning the Ukrainian en route to winning the WBC interim title. Despite acknowledging Benavidez's strength, Morell says he's not moved by Benavidez's style and a rich resume.
Rich resume?
It's simple, man. His only move is to attack. That's it. He's a strong guy, a big guy, but after these attributes, he doesn't have anything. Do you ever see Benavidez with a defensive move or whatever? So he only attacks because he's the bigger guy to his opponents. I respect every fighter, but I would say that the thing I respect the most, not just from Benavidez, but from any fighter in any division, is the sheer fact of having the guts and the spirit to step into the ring and go hand-to-hand, face-to-face with an opponent that's at your level. So I'm going to respect that always from Benavidez and from any other fighter in any division that is willing to face a challenge like that. Is that what David Benavidez has been doing? And is that what he's doing now?
Debatable.
When asked how he envisions the fight playing out against David Benavidez, Morell said, "Everybody is not easy, but I know this fight is going to be a knockout. It's really going to be a really, really tough fight." And some might point to David Morell's last performance with Radovanje Kalajic, that he looked human in that fight, not highlighting why he looked human. He was in there with a mover, a jabber, a boxer, and that's not David Benavidez. That's part of the intrigue of this fight, that David Morell may be lacking experience, but he does have some of the right ingredients, the right base style for the job.
He's got more size than many of David Benavidez's previous opponents. More power.
I mean, I think he packs a bigger punch than Kyron Davis. I think he packs a bigger punch than David Lemieux or Anthony Durrell, Caleb Plant. I think he hits harder than those fighters.
Power.
With movement, with boxing acumen. And because David Benavidez is not a fighter you have to chase, like Radovanje Kalajic, because he's not a fighter you have to find, he'll find you. Could end up doing half the work for David Morell, barreling forward, shoulders square, throwing punches in bunches, to give David Morell all the countering opportunities he needs. And he needs a knockout.
I still think the PBC is a lot more invested in David Benavidez than David Morell, so if it goes to the cards, they could come back funny.
If they have to. David Morell has to pace himself. That's what he has to do. Careful not to blow his load and burn through all his energy reserves in the first quarter or second quarter of the fight. You need to leave something for the middle.
David Benavidez's methodology is to wear down his opponent over time.
So you don't burn through everything you've got in the beginning and leave nothing for the middle or the end. You do that, you're gonna get taken out.
They seem like a generic piece of advice, but remember, David Morell doesn't have a lot of fights, doesn't have a lot of rounds.
Even if he has some of the right ingredients, what he's lacking is experience. And learning to pace yourself is an experience you acquire over time. That's what he has to do in this fight.
Pace himself.
Would turn the boxing world upside down if he can pull this off.
Stranger things have happened.
To make it happen, he has to be judicious.